Breathwork changed my life, now I'll help you change yours. In 2013, my world was turned upside down when my partner was murdered. I was thrown into grief, a place I never expected to be. The last decade plus has been a journey of healing, learning what works and what doesn't. Also how to rebuild from the darkest of places. I founded Vidya Breathwork, a method designed to make healing simple and accessible, and now I train facilitators to share this transformative practice globally. Welcome to The Dark Side with Verity, the podcast where we get real about transformation, growth, and stepping into your strength. Let's dive in. Welcome back. Today we are talking relationships. So let's take a big deep breath together because this is going to be a biggie. If you're sitting down, close your eyes, get comfy. If you're on your walk, soft gaze, but let's all do this together. Big inhale through the nose. Deep all the way into the belly, and then a soft, slow, long, calming, relaxing exhale. Welcome. I'm going to tell you that I'm no expert in this field. Even though all of my friends come to me for relationship advice, I'm learning, which you will discover in this. When I was with Josh, we were together 7 years. So that's a big chunk of time to start to understand each other. More importantly, understand yourself and how you show up in relationships, your mirrors, your shadows, all of you. Because a great relationship is the willingness to look at yourself. Everything is figure outable and it's that space to be honest with yourself, listen to your partner, own your blind spots, all of these things. It's all well and good to look back now as I reflect. So I'm going to share with you my relationships after Josh. I won't name any names. I'm more just sharing from the lessons and experiences and what I have noticed looking back. Because at the time, I didn't know this. But when I've looked back, there is no type apart from not being like Josh. I didn't want to meet anyone particularly, I don't think, because I'd already said in my mind that I've already been with the love of my life. Like, that's enough. And that was like the energy that I was putting out. And all of the relationships were fun, all great people, all legends, just not long-term partners for me. And that maybe took a little while to be really honest with myself of why did I pick these people? How did I end up in these relationships? Because I kind of reverted back to maybe prior Josh. So the first one was, I would say, more of a trauma bond relationship. He'd also lost a partner and we met traveling. It was fun. We always had really good fun together if I was in like party mode. It just changed quite a lot when I got back to Darwin, my hometown, and had to work. And like partying in a hostel where you know no one is very different to having drinks going out in your hometown. Like the wild, carefree person cares a little bit. This relationship was also the first one after Josh. So it was me getting used to being in a relationship with another person, also my family and my friends. And my friend group was everybody that loved Josh. Like all of our friends were his friends. So then meeting this other person who was nothing like Josh, very different in how they looked at life, their demeanor, both great people, but very, very different. And yeah, it was just an interesting, wild time. The first night, he ended up moving to Darwin. So the first night he arrived in town, I'd just finished my launch party of these penthouses that I'd designed. And so we'd had a few drinks and we've gone to pick him up from the airport, come back to our house, and my sister is there making eggs like three ways. There was scrambled eggs, there was poached eggs, there was fried eggs. She was on a mission. And we walked into the house and I go to introduce her and she says his name and like crunches a poppadom. I think in her wisdom she was like, you better do the right thing. So that was their first meeting encounter. They were great mates moving forward, but it was a lot. Like my sister, Josh, and I were like the three musketeers. So then something else coming in was also a shock to her because he was like her big brother. And I guess massive shoes to fill, which nobody could ever fill them. And that was that was sort of like the space of where I was vibrating from that, yeah, I'll have fun. Yes, I'll say I love you. But in reality, I'd already made up my mind that I was never going to find that kind of love again. So kind of no one really had a hope. No relationship had a hope because I had already made that decision a long time ago in my head. Because we lived in Josh and my house, that was also really tough. Like that was mine and Josh's pride and joy. And I don't know, I thought that I didn't want to leave the house. Obviously wasn't thinking really clearly and wasn't ready to let go. Because I look back now and I kind of wish that I'd learned to let go quicker. Because in my mind, you can't bring another person into that space, that house that was something that you had and your past partner had created. And it wasn't like a mutual ending. It was the world being ripped away. So looking back, that was not a great move, but I didn't want to leave the house at the time. And I also kind of didn't take life seriously because if I did take life seriously, I was going to get hurt like I got hurt when Josh passed away. So it's all these protection and coping mechanisms that I know now. I didn't know then. So that relationship did not last. I think it lasted about 2 years. That was kind of my point of, okay, like I don't see myself with this person. And I would be avoidant and be frustrated at things that were happening in the relationship. However, instead of actually having, we had loads of conversations, but I was never getting through my needs clearly, obviously. And we went our separate ways. He left Darwin. My next relationship, because I moved to Bali, was with a local, he's from West Timor, Indonesian. And I met him through mutual friends from Australia. He was a surf instructor, a photographer, just loads of fun. Great smile, great energy, and we just had fun touring around Bali, surfing all the time. I still am a terrible surfer. That is no point to him. Like I love surfing. I will get better. It's just that there's no waves here. So every time I go back, I'm like, I am going to nail this because it's such a humbling thing. You have to move with the ocean. You have to understand you're in that space with Mother Nature and you have to be fearless. And reality is, this is my thoughts, everybody has to fall off to get off. So can you really be bad at surfing? I don't think so. This relationship, again, was fun, but probably not a forever for me. Because 2 years is kind of the point where I've gone, am I going to have a family with this person? How are we going to build a future together? And at that point, we used to have lots of conversations of business and what life was going to be like. And I was in a point of running retreats. Like that was my dream. I'd been setting up my company Vidya, and Roti was the island. Like everything had fallen into place and I'd worked really hard. So that was my goal. And like I always wanted him to have his. So I was probably this annoying person pushing him to create a business, to start different things. Like how else can he earn more money to support himself, to support a family? So I was probably very annoying. To be fair though, he did ring me years later and say thank you because now he has a really successful business. So he was like, I wish I listened to you sooner. Yeah, don't we all wish that we'd listened to other people sooner? But we have to find out things in our own time, our own way. We went to KL for a holiday and came back to Bali. I wasn't feeling well, but friends from Australia had come over. And so we'd all gone out to Old Man's for the night. I wanted to go home, so he dropped me home on the scooter. And I had this feeling, that knowing. And I said to him, I have a weird feeling. Why don't you all come back and party at the villa? Like I'm going to bed anyway, but something doesn't feel right. He got mad at me and said, you just don't want me to have fun. You don't want me to go out with my friends. It wasn't the case at all. I just felt uneasy and shared that because I always want everyone to be safe. I went to sleep. I woke up. Same. I think it was maybe like 1 o'clock and he wasn't home. So I've called his phone and literally my worst nightmare. All I can hear is ambulance sirens. And his friend is saying he's been in a really bad accident and we're on our way to the hospital. I just went into frozen survival mode. Literally just thought he was going to die. I got dressed, ordered a Gojek because he had our scooter. And it's like those weird moments in life where you're like, everything's going in slow-mo. The Gojek driver was super weird. He was saying all this stuff to me and just being strange on the bike. Like normally you would just drive straight there. Like I'm going to the hospital, the local hospital. There were all these dogs, so he would slow down when the dogs were barking and the dogs were trying to bite my feet. It was this strange, like weird vortex of trying to get to the local hospital. As I got there, he's lying in the bed about to go for a CT scan. There's blood all over his face. He's just looking at me, can barely speak. And he was just like, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. But I don't need you to be sorry right now. I need you to be okay. I need you to live. So he goes and has his scan. His skull was crushed. His face, yeah, well, you can imagine his skull was crushed. So he was driving home on the scooter. He's got his head turned because he's calling out to his friend, I think, to come behind him. Another scooter is coming straight. They crash, headbutt. Luckily, neither of them had helmets on. If one of them did, I'm pretty sure the other one would have been dead. And so, yeah, skull in half, face not okay, teeth missing. He comes out of the scan in the hospital bed and starts like shivering and shaking. And all of the nurses are just standing there. Indonesian people are the sweetest, but Indonesia, everything moves very slow. And I'm just looking around going, why is no one doing anything? Why is no one getting him a blanket even? Like, that's all I could think. He's shaking. I'm no nurse or doctor, but maybe that's going to help. And so I start like screaming, trying to find one. And everyone's kind of looking at me like I'm crazy. I swear I did look crazy because it was probably a moment of like PTSD. Like this is the moment where I could actually help someone. And no one would get a blanket because she said they couldn't find any keys to the cupboard. Like these are cupboards. I broke the cupboard. So I just like pulled the door and broke it open and got blankets out. And so we're waiting. We were waiting. Nothing was happening. And I'm talking to his other friend. He's from Australia. And we're like, what are we going to do? I'm like, we can't stay here. Like, no one's dying on my watch. And we walked out the back, and there was this room that was filled with bodies, just like lined up. Like, hell no, we're out of here. So we called I'd say, more Western hospital to get them to come to the hospital and collect him in the ambulance. It was going to be $10,000 straight up. So I've like handing over my credit cards. He gets in the ambulance. We all go to this hospital, and already you can start to feel that something is going to happen. There's a plastic surgeon looking at him. He has more scans. They're like, okay, we can fix this. Amazing. So it was a long recovery for him. Any damage to your head, your brain, especially frontal lobe damage, like this is your processing emotions. This is being able to think. And so for someone who was very quick-witted, could speak so many bloody languages, it was quite frustrating for him in his recovery because he would get angry and not really know why. And he would, just be frustrated, I guess. Because it's hard. You go from being someone who's like switched on the ball all the time to things being a bit harder and your body being in shock and having to relearn. So, it was a tricky time to navigate because previous to that, it was like before he left to go out on that night, he was so angry with me. And so we were like, okay, like maybe this relationship isn't going to work. And then that happened. And obviously you care and love someone and you want to make sure they're okay. So like we did our best to make it work afterwards. But on retreat, he was helping, surfing, and was all part of the crew. Because it was my first retreat, I was getting it all filmed, and like I was probably more stressed than normal because this was my first, like it was all new, and I wanted it to be the best for the people experiencing it. So I would get feedback to know what I could do differently or how I could change it. And midway through the retreat, like it was almost over, but I felt this massive energy shift. They were all like vibing, done lots of work. And these, like my dream retreat, fishing, surfing, yoga, healing, workshops. Like this was my jam that I'd always wanted to do. And everything had just shifted. And then one of my best friends had a chat with me and she said, I'm either going to ruin your life in the greatest surprise or I'm going to help you out right now. But I've been deliberating and it's all I've thought about, but I think I should tell you. So she comes and tells me that he's going to propose, and she thought I should know because she knew me and knew how important this retreat was for me. And that probably in the phase that we were at wasn't the greatest time. But more importantly, like this was my moment to support everybody else. And then all of a sudden, everybody's thinking about me, supporting me. Like that's not what my retreat was designed for. And that whole space, like I just thought, okay, have a chat with him. Let's hope that it doesn't go ahead for now because I'm in retreat zone and this is what I want to focus on. I want you guys to have the best experience possible. Anyway, it went ahead and I said no, and he said it was a promise ring. But again, it was more the situation that we were in. But I just realized that you probably didn't know me and what I needed or would love. And so it got, like, he was hurt. So it got maybe a little bit like anyone does when they're hurt. You're frustrated, you're upset, you're sad. And so, that was a pretty big ending from that space. I think we tried to like salvage that a little bit, and he came to Australia, but it just got all too much, I think, for me to handle at that time. So I was still really dealing with my own stuff and probably didn't have the level of support that either of us needed. So that ended. The next was a guy from Darwin, and I ended up moving back from Bali. This was just before COVID. And I got very caught up in someone who is great with words. Again, an amazing human. We just were not right for each other. We met at a boat party, and I love people who are doers. Like if you have a dream or you say you're going to do something, like do it. What is the worst that can happen? You fail or you're really good at it. Like that's it. And so every weekend we would party in Darwin, or not even party, but we'd party at home. And I'd gone from being basically sober to then coming back and falling back into like old party Verity mode. Like not a good look. So already it was very unhealthy from that space. And yeah, we would have great chats, plan all the things that we were going to do. And I remember at the end, my sister saying, nothing ever happened, right? Like, I didn't even know. I just kept thinking, like, what could have I done differently? Like, why was I not enough? All that happened was it brought out the worst in me. And when I say the worst, the very worst. So I am not a great drunk. Like, I can drink lots. In my family, growing up, alcohol was like normal. You are happy, have a drink. Sad, have a drink. Things go wrong, have a drink. Stressed, have a drink. And it wasn't ever like a bad thing until I grew up and started to understand my limits. Because one, my anxiety levels are through the roof when I'm hungover. So if I'm out drinking, like I've got to consciously decide that I've prepped for the next couple of days and I'm going to look after myself in that. I have nothing to do, no one to see. I can watch Netflix if I want, because otherwise the repercussions, maybe it's like PTSD from when I was younger, when you have like blackout drunk, maybe. But there were like 2 times that were just horrible. And I don't blame anybody else because I'm in the scenario. I'm drinking. I chose to be with that person. But it was not a good time. So I think the first time was in Bali. So we'd booked to go together, and all his family was going to be there. It was over Christmas, I'm pretty sure. And he would have this thing where he would go out and party and not just let me know he's okay, would go missing for days. But someone that's been through what I've been through, it triggered every part of me possible. And that's not a great space to be in, because I would be frantic. I'd freak out. Like, is he dead somewhere? Is he, like, what? And so we'd stayed at different places. I was going to hang out at my friends. And I think that night before, he'd called me. I hadn't seen him for like 4 days or something. I don't remember the timelines. This may not be correct. There was a chunk of time, and he'd been out in Kuta partying. I don't know. Called me from some random massage place. Blind drunk. Wasn't making any sense. And so I thought, should I call his mum? Should I call his sister? Like, do they want to know he's okay? I don't know. He's an adult. Probably not. But rationally was clearly not my strong point at that point in time. So I think I messaged them. I don't really remember. And anyway, then he said, "Oh, can I see you?" I'd been drinking that night with that day at a day club with a friend because I was sad and poor me, and then went to another friend's place for dinner. It's like there's some truth to the truth comes out when you're drunk. Not always, though. But I was just so hurt, frustrated by this person. And yeah, I just didn't behave in a very beautiful manner whatsoever because we were leaving the friend's party. And I just remember being like so hurt and angry. And I don't even know how it started. All I know is that I didn't show up in the best place. Like, I remember kicking a scooter. Like, what? None of what I do makes sense in those moments apart from like, how could you do that to me when you knew what I'd been through? Like, that's very one sided. He's obviously going through lots of stuff himself. He's got a whole heap of things that he was dealing with. But at that time, like, I didn't really have the capacity for anyone else. Like, I thought I did because I also found out all of these moments that led up to this. So because I didn't communicate to him the things that I'd found out, it then exploded when I got drunk. Not cool. Because previously there was like a time where I was sailing overseas and it was like Josh's anniversary and he was going to a party. I'd spoken to him on the phone and then didn't hear from him, but whatever, like I'd gone to sleep. I was like on a boat. And I feel like I have great intuition and I just knew something had happened. And I remember running into a chick like a month later at yoga and she was asking me questions. She's like, "Oh, you're with this person now." And I said, "Yeah, yeah." And she said, "Oh, when did you get together?" And I told her, and then I saw her face drop and change. I was like, well, that's part of my confirmation. Look, give everyone the benefit of the doubt. And yeah, so I already knew, like, not at that time, but I'd recently found out then that, like, so I had found out then, but what in my brain thought that it was a good idea to not bring this up? Like, I have never looked through anybody's phone. I just think that you're never going to find what you want because any message can be taken the wrong way and whatever. So I'm like, I'm not going to be this person. I will just trust, maybe it's the start of the relationship. Okay, what, Verity? Have some self-worth. Anyway, didn't say anything for months. And then this is what happens. It builds up to this point where, yeah, I acted crazy. Not cool. Worst part is this relationship somehow we got back together to some degree. I don't know. And this must have been the following year, like went to Adelaide to have Christmas with my family. Now this is where the this is the part where I'm really mortified about. And like I could say, I wish it never happened because at the time I wanted to die and crawl in a hole. But it was like the hottest day in Adelaide. So we were staying in our hotel room. We drank I would say at least a bottle of vodka. Like that's a lot for two people. And we had an argument and he's like, well, I'm leaving. Like, well, you don't know where to go. This is Adelaide. Like, can you not do this like disappearing thing because that's just going to trigger me and it's not going to be great. So he's trying to leave the hotel room. I'm trying to grab his arm. Again, like there's no need to be physical ever. In my wisdom at that time, with that much to drink, all I could think of is like, if he leaves this hotel room, he's going to die. And then that's another person that I'm going to have to deal with. Like, this sounds so selfish, and I get that. It was just, there was so much that I hadn't healed clearly in when it came to relationships because I'd done all of this healing on my own. but not particularly in relationships. And so he'd like gone to go. By this time, I'm like trying, I think I was running, trying to chase him, or like basically begging him not to leave this hotel room. And we get in the lift and I'm like trying to pull him out and he puts his head down. I lift up my arm anyway. I definitely did not punch him, but my arm has hit his nose and it's given him a blood nose. So he's probably thinking this chick is fucking crazy. And the worst, best, but let's call it the best, because the best outcome is that we are not together and we're both okay and we're both healing and happy in our lives. But as we got outside, there were police cars. And so he's like told the police, like, oh, she's drunk, she's hurting me, whatever he said. And I'm like, you just threw me under the bus. But this is the thing, like I take responsibility because they were my actions. Like I did it. I was just severely triggered, and this is not an excuse. This is a real hardcore reason to do more healing. But yeah, I was very intoxicated. So they were like, you have to come with us. So I spent an evening in Adelaide jail the night before Christmas. Mortifying. And like, obviously they're trying to scare me, saying like, you might be here over Christmas. I was like, oh, what am I going to tell my family? Sorry, I'm in jail. And yeah, anyway, they were lovely. They're just like, what happened? I told them. They're like, we just wanted to separate you two because it's a hotel room. So yeah, I got out, had to find my way back to the hotel room to find out that he had taken the hire car, left it at the airport, put the key in a lockbox for me. Like, couldn't you have just Ubered to the airport so I didn't have to go back there? Anyway, he left me. So by the time I got out of jail, I was like in this hotel room by myself. And imagine like anxiety to the maximum and hating on myself. Like I couldn't believe that I had hurt someone. And yeah, it's not like I went punched, but to be in that space is not cool. It's another reason why I'm on this journey to make sure nobody else puts themselves in these situations, because none of this was intentional. I don't have a mean bone. I just wanted to make sure this person also wasn't going to die. But this is me projecting all of my insecurities, my fears onto somebody else. That's pretty unfair. So safe to say, more work was done. We did end up catching up for coffee maybe months later to have a chat, to apologize. And I was apologizing profusely because I was just embarrassed of my actions. Over time, I'm just realized that I put myself in scenarios with people who were also really hurt. He had his own stuff going on, had for years. I would say they're blind spots for him at the time. I don't know what he's doing now. But I just knew from that point I would never be with someone who I allowed this to unfold with and not value myself or my own boundaries or my own healing. To me, letting someone know you're okay is just respectful. I'm not checking on anyone. I'm not controlling. I just think it's respectful. It's really that simple to me. So find someone with the same values when it comes to relationships. So after that, it was COVID and took a long time on my own, because after big things like that, you needed to really self-reflect to make sure that, one, it never happens again. Two, you can heal from this and just become a better version of yourself. So yeah, I did a lot of healing in the same time, like having fun, because that relationship felt quite isolating. I was always so worried about how he was and his mood or his reaction. And he's, to anyone, like a really happy, beautiful person. So I'm not saying it was him. It's me, how I maybe it's like perceived control and people pleasing in that space. I don't even really know, but all I knew I was not in a great space to be in a relationship. So I took some time by myself and did 75 hard, like did all the all the things to reset. And during COVID, the guys that I lived with, they were like, you need to go on like Tinder dates. I think I went on 2 Tinder dates. One of them was fun. It was a really cute date. He was younger than me, but it was a fun date. And the other one, he had my friend's husband in one of the photos. So I thought, oh yeah, no worries. Like they are great mates, whatever. This, we hung out for maybe 6 weeks and like once a week. And I remember saying to my friend's husband, like, oh, do you like know this guy? Like, well, you know him. And he's like, I have no idea who you're talking about. So this guy had put like random people in his profile pictures. One tip is to make sure you check that they're actually friends and they're actually like, good humans. Yeah, that really turned me off dating apps because also I just don't think I'm designed for them. I feel like it's a little bit like Guess Who? Like, oh, your height, your, if you want kids, if you drink or smoke. Yeah, so after the Tinder dating apps, I think that was my decision to, it's probably not for me. Okay, I need to pause this because we are over time already. We're almost at the present time. I want to say all of these people are absolute legends. They're all beautiful in their own way. It's just really evident that when going into a relationship, do your own healing work. I wish I'd done this stuff a long time ago because when you understand what your relationship style is, how you communicate, how you show up, what your values are, what you want out of life, whether it's aligned, like all of this stuff is super important. So there was an element of me like, oh yeah, I go with the flow. And I just literally got the flow. So I now am very discerning of how I want to feel in relationships and how I show up because as much as I want to be treated like a queen, I want to treat my partner like a king. Like all of that stuff, as horrible as it was, like that's never going to happen again. My communication is different. Although I may be single forever after sharing all these stories. But I just want to be honest because life, I keep saying life is tough. Life is a journey of exploring and learning. And if you don't learn from this, the repeat patterns, the repeat partners will still keep showing up. And it will keep being served to you until you do the work, until you honor your own boundaries, your values, for it to shift. I feel like this is a bit of a whirlwind episode, me sharing of relationships. I talk about it a lot because it's, yes, relationships with people, with partners, but learning to value yourself and to receive, you need to understand your patterns first. You need to understand what triggers you. So whether you're calling in a new partner, whether you're calling in more money, a new business, a new home, whatever it is, you need to understand you and how you tick before all that's going to show up. And this is where breath work, journaling, like the deep journaling, because you can be grateful for stuff. Great. That really helps. What are you grateful for every day? is important. But journaling on everything that you've been through in the past and looking at your coping mechanisms to see if they're winning methods or not, or whether you've created a space where you keep showing up to what your body knows as comfort. And that is not always the best solution. Quite often it's never. So this going back in time journaling is one of the best things I do with, it'll be in my app, it'll be in my facilitator training, it's my Breathe to Heal course. This task has prompts of from birth to now. All the big things that you've been through in life. And maybe you think that this stuff is a waste of time. Maybe I did too, until I was forced to sit in a room by myself and a day spent on this task. I'm not saying it needs to take you a day, but I do think it's crucial just to understand you a little more. So all of that probably feels like a load. Let's do our 4-7-8 anxiety breath. I still don't have a better name for it, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Close your eyes. We're just going to do 3. So breathing in through the nose for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold the breath at the top for 7. Super slow. Exhale for 8 counts. Breathe it in. Hold at the top. Relax the jaw, the cheeks. Feel the heart rate. Super slow exhale. And do one more. Breathe it in. Hold at the top. Let everything soften. Let your body be still. The heart rate slow. And then a long, slow exhale. I thank you for joining me through this episode. This is the dark side, and all of our past is in the past. And as we release any guilt, shame, all of that dissipates, allowing you to show up with light. Enjoy. Take care. That's a wrap for this episode of The Dark Side with Verity. I trust it's given you clarity, sparked awareness, and allowed you to breathe a little deeper, plus a little takeaway to integrate into your life. If this has resonated, I'd love you to leave a 5-star review, of course. More importantly, I would love you to share this with someone who's on their journey and needs a little bit of assistance. Come hang out with me over at Instagram at VerityJoCoonan or The Dark Side with Verity, or start to explore Vidya breathwork at verityjocoonan.co. Until next time, breathe deep, trust the process, and keep expanding. Much love.